My name is Bettina Dolton, and I'm the owner of Cellar Door Winery in Lincolnville, Maine. And we go for the full experience here and the full process in that we have a vineyard here and we grow grapes. We have the winery facility on site, and then we have the tasting room experience, so we get to welcome our guests and sample the wines and let them find things that hopefully they like.
I come down early, usually just walk through the vineyard, check on everything, see where the grapes are at, how close we are to veraison. Usually if we're not spraying, I'll spend some time weeding, sometimes the morning, either using the tractor or by hand. So this is our Marquette. This is it's a young vineyard, so we're at 3 years. It takes 3 years to produce grapes for a vineyard. When they come in, they're like yay big with a small root system, probably that thick. So these are first years.
Oh, okay.
We replanted in. So you can see we're getting this. This is what came to us. Is this wooden part. And then these budded out. So you have small canes this year, you know, not a lot of growth. And then we'll cut these back here and here, and then prune to three branches. These are second years, I'm sorry. They'll grow up, and then we'll clip them back to 2 buds. So once this dies off, it'd be something like clipping here and clipping everything else. Then these will all be new buds next year. So these are more like what you'll see as time goes on. Much older variety, much bigger berries. That's just, it's variety specific. So we're coming along though. We got some grapes here. We're just starting to hit veraison, which is when they change color. You can see they're starting to get like instead of this dark green, they're starting to lighten up, starting to get a little bit of red on them. So it's a very experimental vineyard, which is important to keep in mind. Grape growing is very new in Maine and on a scale for making wine. So we have a lot of different varieties here. You notice like already the La Crescent, I have the Cheval Blanc here, I have the Muscat over here, and then I have my Marquette over there. And this is what like all the fields look like, because we're trying to do, just trying to see what works here.
The process of making wine is an interesting one.
It all starts with crush.
Actually, I'm acting as the crusher.
We're actually kind of doing it. We're doing it the old-fashioned way, kind of by hand right now. So.
Crush is the time where we get our fruit, and this is our blueberries we're doing right now.
Yep, we're sorting it into what we consider grade A and grade B. The better of the berries, the more ripe ones, will go into our Clary Hill Blue dry red wine, and the non-ripe or the less ripe ones will go into our Treasure dessert wine because that's sweeter and you can have more acid in it.
The grapes coming in that first fermentation process, that one is pretty clear. That's 7 to 10 days.
And then depending on the wine, if it's going through malolactic fermentation, that can take up to 2 to 3 months.
And then this element of aging things for flavor and for things to sort of settle out the way that you might, that can be anywhere from 3 months to years.
A white wine that gets bottled within 6 months to a red wine that gets bottled in anywhere from 6 to 36 months.
As wine goes through the bottling process, so remember, you either have it in tank and barrel, and now you're going to put it through filters, and then you're going to run it through a bottling line. That is very desettling to wine. It basically rips the proteins apart, and that's that element of why you have to let things sit in the bottle for a few months before you introduce them after bottling, so that the proteins can all come back together and flavors come back together. Because otherwise, the beautiful flavors you can have tasted right in the tank or the barrel the day before you bottle, they go through the bottling line, and then it feels coarser or rougher or something like that, and you need all of that to settle back out again. So that's probably, depending on the wine, that can be a month to 3 months to 6 months after that. So there's all kinds of variables.
I'd say the major difference is that for red wines you ferment on the skins, whereas white wines you press immediately off the skins.
In Maine, obviously blueberry wines are part of the winery culture up here. And when Aaron Pete, our new winemaker since August 2008, wanted to make a blueberry wine, he was great. He goes, I want to make the best one that we can possibly make.
Yeah.
And the prior owners had actually been bringing blueberry juice in. Aaron last year in 2009 made the decision that he was going to do it from blueberries. And so beginning last year, we worked with a fellow, Brian Powers, out of Union, Maine, who has Clary Hill Farm, over on Clary Hill Farm, and we've contracted to buy tons of blueberries. The blueberries are a little more challenging to work with than grapes are. The texture of them is different, the sugar levels are different. The intellectual thinking behind it is the same, but whereas grapes crush and juice and press out juice, turns out blueberries mush and splatter. So the guys had an interesting challenge with that last year. But you know what, at the end of the day, it made some beautiful wine.
Goal behind pairing, you want to balance flavors, whether you're complementing or contrasting. So you can find two flavors that, you know, sweet with sweet would be a contrasting flavor. So you have a sweet food with a sweet wine. You have contrasting flavors, sweet and savory. So really rich, savory foie gras with a very decadent sweet ice wine. So that would be a contrasting flavor, but you want to balance. Same thing in winemaking, you want balance, and that's really all you're looking for.
People are really looking for suggestions on how to pair food and wines. And we kept getting the question of, okay, with this wine, what should I pair this with? And so, as we thought about this year, we really have tried to make this more approachable and this fun for our guests also. We designed our labels so that the back label has wine pairing suggestions. This wine and the flavors in this will complement this food. And then we've been doing a lot of food and wine pairing events this year, so that people can really sample and try different types of foods together.
You could have, it's just neutral. You could have a good pairing where they're good together, and then you can have a really great pairing where they both become better because of being together. It's very rare that you find things that are just awful. Like, you put it together and you're like, oh my god, that tastes bad. And you can find that, but you can usually steer clear of that just using some basic rules of, you know, complement. You know, don't try and contrast. So you have to look for the major components in the dish. It could be chicken, but have a very heavy cream sauce. Chicken with an acidic tomato sauce. You have to find out what your major component of the dish is and then pair that.
We do complimentary wine samplings at both our locations every day. And that allows our guests to select, you know, several wines to try. And we have a broad palette of wines on our list right now. And so there's everything from a dry white wine to a blueberry wine to a sweet red Concord grape wine, and every variation in between. And so guests really have the opportunity to find things that they like, which I think is great.